From the underground to the world stage. One stage, countless voices. The conversation that shapes culture, politics, entertainment, and society. Politicians, comedians, musicians, actors, public servants, leaders, unfiltered, unscripted, unmissable. This is Debated Live.
You're watching
Debated!
Follow new episodes every week. Keep it locked.
Yes, welcome back to Debated Live. Jordan Kensington, the build. We have our next guest coming in, and before I even introduce her, I'm going to play a clip that first led me to her in the first place, and it's something that my team brought to me and said, check this out.
Children learn how to treat their fathers by watching their mothers do it. And ladies, I know you might want to tap out right now, but if you stick around, I'm gonna say something that's gonna help you. Children are emotional sponges, and even when you are not sitting them down to teach them a lesson, they are learning about love, partnership, and respect in the way that they are nurtured by you. If they are constantly watching their mother dismiss their father, talk down to him, or use a certain tone or body language towards him, that becomes the blueprint. This is not a one-sided game. I understand that this can go both ways, right? But that's not the issue we're dealing with today. Let's stay on topic. For most women, respect is not automatic. It is rooted in a deep level of admiration. Most women need to feel that their man is better than them in some way in order to deeply respect him. I'm not talking about the general respect we give to all people. I'm talking about the level of respect that you give to the man in your life who you're saying is going to lead you, protect you, and who you're saying you're going to honor. And when I say better, I don't mean it in the sense that he's superior or controlling. I simply mean that he's admirable. He's emotionally disciplined, competent, decisive, protective, and grounded. Psychology backs this up. Studies show that respect within relationship stems from the perceived level of competence, integrity, and strength of character. Studies have even found that when women perceive that their partners are lacking discipline, direction, or ambition, contempt and dissatisfaction begin to rise sharply. And according to John Gottman, those are two of the strongest indicators for relationship breakdown. It is extremely difficult to respect a man that you do not look up to in at least one area. And when there is no respect, even in the moments when you may try to hide it, it shows to the people around you, to your partner, and to your children, if you have them. By default, your children will see who you listen to, who you honor, who you roll your eyes at. They pick up on it all. That's why it matters who you choose. You can't just go for who chooses you. As women, sometimes we give away our autonomy too quickly for fear of the timelines that we've placed on ourselves, and we end up settling for men we don't respect. Admiration is something that is naturally occurring. You shouldn't really have to work too hard at respecting your man. You can't raise respectful children in a home where disrespect is the daily language. You cannot teach honor if it's not present in your own partnership. And everyone gets hurt in situations like that. You, your partner, and eventually your children. So ladies, use your free will for something good today. So much can be avoided simply through good decision making.
Yes, that's so strong. And that was the voice of Amanda Batter. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Debated. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. So as I was saying, we here on Debated, we're always in the know. My team will always bring me people that are saying things that are relevant, things that, the world needs to hear. Amanda, when you posted this, what inspired you to post this in terms of relationships between men and women? And, it's a big thing when you speak to a lot of divorce lawyers. The first thing they always say is, when the divorce lawyer will say, or therapists, they'll say when they speak to the man, the first thing the man says is, I didn't feel respected, and that's why this didn't work.
Yeah.
How did you come? Because hearing it from a female's perspective is quite different, because that's what men always say in those kind of situations. So hearing it on a female perspective, how did you come yourself to that sort of conclusion on your side?
So as a therapist, I do a lot of reflecting on my own. I think that therapists must do their own work. And
Yeah.
I was reflecting on my own upbringing and the way I think I maybe had just got off the phone with my dad. And I was, I noticed how sharp I was with him, and, kind of just the tone that I had with him. And I just started thinking about the way I grew up and the way I watched my mom interact with my dad. And they're still married to this day, right? Love each other dearly. But I would not want to operate in that same manner that I watched my parents operate together. And I see how much it has influenced the way that me and my siblings speak and interact with my dad. And I'm not crazy, so I know there are reasons for everything. And we can see that the influence of the mother and the father is so strong when it comes to the relationships that your adult children and younger children will have with you.
No, I completely agree, because it's very clear that you are living in a household that there is a disrespect on your father. It becomes a whole thing where the kids become disrespectful, and the person mirrors back what you're giving them. Because obviously, as you said, your parents are still married today, but there's been an impact there. You are lucky on your side. Some other parents, they might have divorced, and they're looking at this thing and saying to themselves, but there was love there. I mean, the whole reason why no one's forced to get married, maybe in certain cultures, but most in 2025, no one is like forcing themselves to get married. But you fell in love, there was something that happened, and then at some stage, there was a breakdown of communication. And I always say, is it down to, you as a therapist, you can answer this, is this down to men and women have different love languages? With women, your love language, it could be more, I mean, I'm not going to speak to women, I'm going to speak to men. Well, let's speak to men, and you can speak to with men, your love language could be respect, because they feel valued when they're respected. But maybe the woman's love language to a man could be, making sure they're nourished, making sure they're looked after, making sure the most important thing for them is respect. And it goes down to the animalistic level. If you go to the jungle, a lion, or there's a hierarchy everywhere, and that respect is so important. Once that's lost, it becomes there's an anger, there's so much a void going on. Do you think it's love languages, or do you think it's wired in the DNA of both species, that this is how they behave towards each other?
I think that there is a proper order to relationships and a proper order to the way things should function. Do we always operate in that way? No. But I do believe that naturally men want to interact with women in a certain way, and naturally women want to interact with men a certain way. I think that the trials of this life, the society, there are a number of factors as to why there's a relational breakdown between man and woman at times. But I think those are the things that get between a man and his wife, to where you are now at this space where there's a lack of respect, there's a lack of love, there's, again, I'll go back to the tone, because I just noticed that there's a certain tone that you speak to someone in, especially a man who you admire or love, when you respect him, and there's a tone that you speak to him when you don't, or when you're in a mood. And so I think that that's a great indicator as to if you are truly respecting him or not. But to your point, yes, love language can have a part of that. And I always like to explain it as like an emotional bank account. We all have an emotional bank account. Men have an emotional bank account in the same way women have one. And there are little things that we can do daily to make deposits into that bank account. So maybe for one man, his wife showing up for him in a certain way, let's say making sure his dinner is cooked when he gets home from work, that's depositing something into his emotional bank account. And maybe he understands that to be respect. For another man, maybe that's not too high on his list of things, right? So it's really about knowing the person you're with. That's why in that video, I said it comes down to women choosing, like really being intentional about the choice that you're making. Because once you make the choice, you're now saying, I am signing up to respect you. I am signing up to submit to you. I'm signing up to do my life with you. I am signing up for you and all of you. So make an informed decision. And I can speak to that because I was married at 22. I think a week or so before I turned 23, I got married. I did not make the right decision. And so I love this because, relational trauma and things like that, because I was in this field, of course, before that, but I love that I'm able to see it from both sides of the spectrum now. I can speak to that prior to marriage and, being able to give, guidance and advice in that space. But I can also speak to what it's like to be in a marriage where maybe this person is not a horrible person, right? But you did not make a good choice for your life, and being able to own that decision and understand how much that impacts your ability to respect someone, regardless of if they're meeting your needs or not, regardless of if you feel like they're the man they're supposed to be. This is who you signed up to be with. So it really comes back to you. And as women, sometimes we'll say things like, well, you're not being a man. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. You signed up for this man. So I hate when people kind of get the wrong idea, even behind that one video that I posted, because a lot of women kind of saw it as an attack, when really I'm saying, no, you get to have autonomy over your relationships. You get to, choose a man and not just go with the man who's choosing you. You get to do your homework before you choose to say, I'm submitting my life to this person. Marriage is so much more than a wedding.
I love that. Marriage is so much more than a wedding. How important is it for those early conversations to be as honest as possible? Because I feel like a lot of things could be avoided, and you can talk from experience because you've been married and you have been divorced because you didn't make the right decision. How is important is those conversations whereby both parties are not just in the love cloud, they actually explain what they want, because it is like you're going to live with this person for the rest of your life. So you're going to build a family together, you're going to grow together. How important is it to say, this is who I am, this is what I want, and how important is the person to say the same thing, and you both to honor that honesty on day one? Because I think sometimes what happens, and you could talk as a therapist as well, that people put their best foot forward on day one, right? Instead of actually being as honest as possible and saying, like, look, you know what, this is how I am, this is who I am, this is what my ambitions are, this is how I am, do you accept it? They put their best foot forward, and everyone, one side behaves like, hey, you know what, our romance is going to be amazing, this is, you're going to be having sex 24/7, not that it's the only thing, but it's going to be this, it's going to be that. And then in the reality, and this is a lot of marriages, in the reality, those change when you're actually in the relationship, whereby certain things, go left and go right, etc., etc. How important is it to be honest, like on those early conversations? And are people honest in those conversations?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important to be honest. Of course, we all know that at the foundation, but even more than it's important to be honest, it's important to accept what people are telling you, and not only accept what people are telling you, accept what people are showing you, and accept what people are saying they are willing to change and showing you they are willing to change. I was talking to one of my clients and sharing with her that she was going through like some relational dissatisfaction in her current relationship, but she really loves this man. She really wants to be with him. And And I'm like, hey, you're either going to do the work with him or you're going to do the work with someone else. I always tell people, everyone's going to come with something. Everyone is walking around with something that they're carrying along.
That's
Maybe
true.
some trauma, some type of, just an ick about them, whatever. Everyone has that
Yeah.
thing. But you get to choose the thing that you want to sign up for. So it always goes back to choice. So if someone is being honest and saying, hey, this is what I want out of a wife, out of a husband, this is how I want my person to show up, this is, what I'm ambitious about, these are the things that I'm not into. And if they're being honest with you and they're also showing you, because everyone's not always going to say it. Everyone's not always going to say it, but you have to also be observant. So as you mentioned, not being caught up in a love cloud, coming back down to ground zero, keeping people around you who can keep you level-headed and kind of bounce ideas off of and say, girl, you might need to think about that. Hey man, did you ask her that question? Having people in your community who are not dating this person with you, but has a set of eyes who can give you wisdom and guide you in the direction that you need to go as you're making decisions for your life. Because sometimes what we do is we make a decision for the moment instead of making a decision for our destiny and for our purpose and for what we actually want for our life.
No, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. Is it that it's what we fed by television and film that has obscured? Like we was having a conversation earlier on with Malins, and I was talking about programming, education and programming. Her point was, programming has to change. Like the way people are being programmed has to change. The educational system has made you believe something else that it isn't. Romance has been something else that it isn't. You don't understand what you're getting into, and that education needs to be done, and from a very young point where you understand that this is how. If your example is your parents, and your parents' example is their parents. And if you go back and back and back, and nobody has actually been taught how to behave in a relationship, how to make things successful, is it that there was a lack of love, or is it that we just don't know?
Yeah, I think it can be both. But to go back to the first thing you said about programming, I think social media is doing us a horrible disservice right now. I think that there is an influx of content that speaks a lot about what women should expect, what women should want, what women, so much content like that, who men should be, how men should show up, what men should pay for. Like there's just so much content out there like that I think for a lot of people it's skewing their perspective, and it's putting them in position where they may have the opportunity to be with a really great person, but because of all of the messaging that they're receiving, they can't decide on, should I go forward with it? Should I just keep staying on the fence? Should I go forth with it? So they're playing this back and forth game, or completely cutting people off who actually could be good for them, but because it doesn't meet what social media standards said, then, I'm not going to do it. For example, we all see this debate. I don't know if you have, but I've seen it so many times. I'm tired of it, about men paying the bills and all the bills, and there's just this why do we even have to talk about that online? I don't know, but that's just a very hot debated topic online, and men paying for everything. And so then you have women having this expectation that the moment they meet a man, the first thing he's supposed to do is splurge his money on them, and they're saying, oh, I want to have a long-term quality, healthy marriage or long-term relationship, but you're approaching it in a way as if you're looking for a trick, or you're looking for a man who's just, how are you going about this activity? And I think it's just because of social media. Now, the second question you asked about, is it love or is it a lack of knowledge? And I think it's both, because sometimes people have remained married out of convenience. When we think about our grandparents and their parents, and just thinking generations back, so many of those relationships lasted 50 years, married for 40 years. That doesn't mean that they were happy. And many of them were not. Many of them were abused. Many of them were unfaithful. Many of them were not healthy at all, but they remained together out of convenience and because it was expected of them. I was just watching Fences the other day. I'm not sure if you've seen that movie with Denzel Washington and Viola Davis. And, you know, he had a baby on her and then expected her to raise the baby for him because the other woman died.
Crazy.
And so
That's
it's
mad.
just, you know, but that's the culture that our, you know, many of our families lived through. And then we expect that now we're just going to be raised up and we're going to be able to go off and have a healthy relationship and a healthy marriage just by osmosis. No, we got to do the work. We got to unlearn those unhealthy patterns. We got to unlearn what mom and dad and grandma and grandpa taught us. Maybe not even by, again, sitting us down and teaching us those things, but we have to unlearn what we observed.
No, I love that. I love that. Don't forget, guys, this is the Debated Live show. We are live online on different platforms. So we have several platforms on there that we're on there, wherever you're watching from. Don't forget, coming after Amanda, we have Enoch, a young president, shall I say, from Africa, coming after. We had some legends today. Amanda Bata is a relational trauma therapist, and relationships is how you relate to the ship. If you don't relate to the ship properly, it ain't going to sail the direction you want it to sail. So it's so important to learn how to relate to that ship properly. You have friendships, you have relationships, you have situationships. All these ships that we have to relate to it properly. Amanda, there was a viral meme years ago. It was not a meme, it was a viral story. I don't know if that story is accurate or not, whether it was a real story or not, but this actually went viral. And the story was a woman married this man in Brazil. And everything she would ask the woman to do, she would just be disrespectful. She wouldn't do it. Like anything, do nothing. The woman didn't want to do anything. She was just so disrespectful to him. But she divorced him and went and married another man, right? And literally everything that man asked her to do, she was doing it for the other man, right? So the man was like, this makes no sense, right? Because like everything you were arguing about not wanting to do, not wanting to be submissive, you're doing it here, right? So what's the difference? Like what was the difference between that? You as an expert in trauma, what do you think was the difference between those two scenarios?
So that's interesting. And it could have been a number of things. But what came to my mind is how sometimes in a relationship, you can treat someone horribly and it has everything to do about what you're going through in your life. So something that can shift between this relationship now and your next relationship, maybe you healed. Maybe you realized through that divorce or through that breakup that you were a hot mess and that you needed to get your life together. And so, of course, that person is now going to be a recipient of the healed version of you, whereas the person before got all of the junk. And that's why it's so important for people to do their work and really, take your time in your singleness to unpack the things that are impacting your life and your relationships and your heart and your ability to trust and have healthy relationships and respect and love and care, to unpack those things so that the person you're with doesn't have to be suffocated underneath the pressure of your traumas. But yeah, something that could have happened between that is simply maybe the person went off and got healed, or maybe they were out to get you the whole time. They hated you and they just wanted to. There is so many things that can happen.
It can one or the other.
Yes.
Now, talking about healing, Amanda, you do healing seminars, healing workshops, and healing conferences. I remember there was a time back in the day, me and a lady called Sherry Silver, we went to launch a healing center called the Love Clinic, like a healing clinic place. Your healing conferences, what's the inspiration behind that? And how do people get involved? And is it just in America? Are you going to be taking it across different countries as well? What was the start and what you're doing with that as well?
Yeah, I always tell people everything I've created, like those spaces for women, it was first something that I needed. So I recognize that in my own deficits and in the things that I was struggling with, I would have benefited from having a space like that. And so what I did was create it for other women so that they can have that space like that and not be in a space of regret or need when they're going through. And so that's the heart behind any type of event or retreat that I've created through this time. And yes, I do them in America. Our next retreat, though, is going to be in Dominican Republic. And so I'm really excited
Wow,
about that. And I cannot
that's
wait.
good.
It's going to be a time of rest and reconnecting with ourselves and with our sisters. So I'm really excited.
I love that. And if people watching want to come to the one in Dominican Republic, where do they go to? How do they get involved?
Yes, so you can go to iambeyondbrokenness.com or simply on Instagram at it's Amanda Justine.
Amanda Justine, brilliant. So you're on a debated show, Amanda, and we always have the red box. This is the red box here. The red box. We never know what card's going to come out of the red box. It's never planned in advance. So I'm gonna pick up the first client. So
All right.
the card is this is random. What is a conspiracy theory that you know 100% to be true?
Oh my
Again,
goodness.
what is a conspiracy theory that you know 100% to be true? Amanda, what's your take?
Okay, so a conspiracy theory that I'm not gonna say I 100% know it's true, but I really do
Yeah.
think there's something weird about it. You know, people talk about like them having weather machines and things like that, changing the
Right. Yeah.
weather.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that that is highly likely just because today it's like almost 80 degrees, it's December,
Yeah.
and the other day it was 30 degrees. So I'm trying to understand what's
Yeah.
going on.
No,
So that is something
that
I
is fact.
believe.
I mean, I think at this point, there's so much evidence as regards to that. There's no, I mean, I don't think it's a conspiracy at this point. I completely agree with you on that one. That's complete facts. So,
Yeah.
so you don't have to, you don't have to cower your brand. I completely agree with
Okay,
that one. So the next one is, what is your hot take? So what's your hot take?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is my hot take? My hot take is that women would be happier in their relationships if they weren't so desperate.
Explain.
Yeah, if you weren't so desperate to be married, so desperate to settle down, you would give yourself an opportunity to really get to know people, and you would then weed out the men who do not fit what you desire. You would really know yourself, and you wouldn't be so desperate to just stop at the first person who thinks you're pretty. And I think that that has gotten women into some unhealthy relationships, have gotten women into some just, serious situations that maybe they could have otherwise avoided had they been less desperate to be picked.
And do you think that's coupled with also doing a deep learning about themselves and doing
Absolutely.
that healing before even, because
Absolutely.
I feel like you either do that deep learning and healing before you get into a relationship, or when you're in a relationship, you either want to start and actually start doing that healing and deep learning, because without that, it's just going to be the same situation happening over and over again, right?
I agree. Absolutely. Absolutely. Taking that time to get to know yourself, because from that place of knowing yourself, that's the only way you can communicate to someone what you need, what you desire, what you want from them, what you want out of this life. But then what happens is a lot of women don't do that before they get married. They find the man who said that they were pretty, they get into the relationship, they get married, and then they start to do the healing work and they realize, wait, what is this? And
What's going on?
yeah, and I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Like in my practice, I see it all the time. So I would just encourage women to stop being so desperate.
No, I love that. So Amanda, your surname is Bata. So
Bata,
where is Bata
yes.
from?
I
Where
am
is it from?
Nigerian. I'm Igbo.
Oh, okay. You're Nigerian.
Yes.
Bata also there is in Cameroon. There is Bata as well in Cameroon, and Nigeria is close to Cameroon. So you might have some roots in Cameroon. You don't even know.
Yes, I do. Yep, I took an ancestry test, but yeah, my father is Nigerian, my mother is American.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Amanda, it was lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Best wishes for the new year. And we pray that the Most High blesses you with, all the success, all the happiness and peace that passes all understanding, so
Receive,
as we go
yes.
into 2026. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing. Amazing. Take care, Amanda. Take care.
Bye.
Amazing. Right. That was Amanda live here on the Debater Live show.
You're watching
Debated.
Follow
With Jordan Kensington.
new episodes every week. Keep it locked.